Once you find a healthy cat food your cat actually enjoys, you have another big decision to make regarding feline nutrition. You have to decide on a feeding routine that fits both your household schedule and your cat's picky personality. There are two main options to consider: meal feeding and free feeding. Now let's explain the difference between free feeding and scheduled feeding cats in this video. So, let's start the video. Advantages of meal feeding. If you're concerned about your cat's health, meal feeding is generally considered the safest feeding method. This is because you can closely monitor your cat's eating habits, and you know exactly how much they're eating and when. You'll be able to tell if Kitty isn't feeling hungry for a few days in a row, and you know whether or not they're actually getting the nutrition they need. In multi-cat households, meal feeding is also the best way to ensure one cat isn't being dominant and stealing most of the food for themselves. It's best for each cat to have their own dish, and with meal feeding, you know exactly who is eating what. Meal feeding also allows you to feed whatever kind of food you want dry or wet without worrying about it going bad. Disadvantages of meal feeding. The main disadvantage of meal feeding is that your cat might not like it. She won't have control over her feeding schedule, and she might beg for food in between meals. Some cats prefer to eat slowly, and meal feeding can make them feel rushed. You also have to be sure you're home when it's your cat's meal time. Unpredictable household schedules often don't work well with meal feeding. Free feeding. Besides meal feeding, there are also plenty of cat parents who choose to free feed. This feeding method involves leaving food out for the cat at all times. Your cat can visit her food bowl whenever she wants and eat multiple small meals throughout the day. Advantages of free feeding. From your cat's perspective, the best thing about free feeding is having control of when they want to eat. If they weren't hungry earlier but want a snack while the humans are away, they have the freedom to do that. It cuts back on begging and doesn't leave cats dependent on a potentially unpredictable human schedule. Disadvantages of free feeding. When you free feed, there's no way of knowing how much food your cat is actually eating. Free-fed cats are more at risk of overeating and becoming obese. That's because without a set schedule, it's hard to keep track of how often you fill up their food bowl. If you simply fill it up every time it's empty, you could be unknowingly overfeeding your feline. Free feeding also poses problems in homes with more than one cat. You can't know for sure if all the cats are getting equal amounts of food. There could be one dominant cat that's preventing others from getting the nutrients they need. There's also the risk of not noticing if your cat suddenly loses their appetite. A decreased appetite is a common symptom associated with a long list of illnesses. With free feeding, it's harder to notice when a cat isn't feeling well. It's also important to point out that free feeding can only be done with dry cat food. Wet food shouldn't be left out all day, and even the dry stuff can go stale. Now it's your turn. Which one impresses you the most? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, do share and subscribe to our channel for further video notifications.